It's another episode of Behind the Broker, the NRG Insights podcast. This is where we interview people who are successful in the market or have made big changes or would generally be interesting in the broker world. So today I've got Nick from the Mantra Group. Thanks for joining me, Nick.
Welcome.
So if we could just start with, tell me about your financial services journey up to and building the Mantra Group. Talk to me about that.
Thanks for having me, Marcus. My journey before setting up Mantra. So I joined Bank of Cyprus UK back in 2005. I went to university for about a week, realised for some strange reason that I knew I wanted to work in banking. And I had older cousins and friends that had kind of done generic degrees and struggled to get jobs coming out of university because they didn't have experience. So I kind of felt that, you know what, I'm going to defer my entry. I had the chat with my dad. He rang his bank manager. My dad had a cafe at the time. He rang his bank manager. 4 weeks later, I had a job at the Bank of Cyprus. And I was working in the machine room encoding checks. So I was working for the cashiers. I think my salary at the time was like $9,000 a year or something. I'm sure they were breaking some kind of laws, but I enjoyed it. It was great. And I kind of went through the ranks. I was lucky enough to kind of be put on a grad scheme without being a grad. Bank of Cyprus were good. I met some good senior people there that took a liking to me and saw something in me. And they funded a lot of my banking exams, my mortgage exams. I done CMAP in 2007. It makes me feel old.
You didn't even need it.
Yeah, no, they didn't end up needing it. And then, yes, I went through the ranks there, looking after different portfolios. My last job there, I was looking after 50% of the bank's corporate book, which was essentially clients in Cyprus and Greece that had debt and assets in London. And then 2012, I left and went to Metro Bank. So I got kind of attracted by the bright lights and what those guys were doing there.
Metro Bank was quite cool at the time, yeah, because I think they took loads of decent. They had a really good recruitment strategy at the beginning, right? They took some really good people there. We've got lots of people who've come from there and been really successful.
Listen, Metro at the time was fantastic. I think it was 3 really enjoyable years. Obviously, I met Nimesh there, and I met a lot of the guys that work with us now at Metro. And Jason Oakley, who was an old business partner of ours, I met him at Metro as well, of course. And it was great. We lent a lot of money. We learned a lot of things. But importantly, what Vernon Hill, who's a really, really interesting guy, what he taught us was how to build a brand and how important that is, no matter what industry you're in, to build a brand and to build consistency and to do the same thing time and time again, and that will kind of hold you in good stead. And for whatever the bank's faults were that ended up kind of meaning that the bank fell into difficulty, that it did that well. It had that consistency around its brand. It did that really, really well. And that's something that we sought to carry through into Mantra, obviously on a much smaller scale, but we kept that. So that was 2012. I left Metro in 2015 with Nimesh to set up Mantra. 2nd of August 2015 was second or third. I think it was a third, actually. I should know that. I should know that date. Really, how embarrassing! But it was around that time.
Good, and then obviously set up Mantra and grew it from there. So, just in regards to the Mantra, you just mentioned it then, and I wasn't going to touch on it straight away. But kind of branding, marketing stuff that's always been, like, you know when you see some of your marketing, or when you see Mantra marketing, you know you've got that kind of consistency. How important has that been for you? I know you said you got it off of Vernon, but how's that set you up as a business on the market?
Yeah, I think there's a few things to it. I think brand for me is not just and brand and consistency isn't just what people see in terms of the outward facing. It's also internal. So that consistency and brand is about every time someone touches and feels your business and your services. So does it feel the same? Does it feel consistent? If someone comes to Mantra, not just what they see on the front in terms of kind of the cool branding, which has always been Nimesh's bag, and I'm fortunate to have him as a partner because he's always driven stuff like that, and it's and I'm fortunate to have someone who's good at that kind of thing. But it's internal, the consistency that clients know every time they touch Mantra and whatever part of the business it is, they know what they're going to get, and I think that is just as important to your brand as the outward facing stuff.
Good. Do you know what? Funnily enough, I was reading something on the weekend, similar thing. It was about it wasn't about branding, it was about culture. And they're actually saying
Yeah.
most of the things we talk about culture is bullshit. Like it's about what the leaders do and about how they make sure that that sort of tears down from the leadership all the way through the business. So culture's a made up thing, in it, like the values that we all write down and have them on the walls and stuff. But actually, it's leadership from top to bottom and making sure that everyone follows that.
Yeah, but you know what? That's right. But also, I think, and again, something that we learned at Metro is that the ownership of the brand doesn't trickle down. Ownership of the brand is owned by everyone. You're all an ambassador of that business. So from the most senior to the most junior, you all equally own that brand. You're all responsible for that brand. You should have the same amount of pride in that brand. And if you can instill that from top to bottom, if you want to look at it that way, and bear in mind, the guys on the bottom are probably the people that might see and feel see and communicate with your clients a lot more than you do.
Yeah.
Especially now, maybe not so much when we first set up the business, but definitely now. They need to feel like they own that brand, and I feel like as a business we've done that. That everybody is an ambassador of that brand and own that brand. They should be proud of it, and I think that's something that, in fairness, we did learn at Metro Bank. It's something that, and we brought that into Mantra.
I think that's really important as well because, like you say, I think there's a lot of small businesses that don't grasp that too early. I think, and you've got to build the foundations like that, haven't you? You've got to, when you're building a team, you've got to understand that this is how we're going to look in the future. So it might not seem important to people at the beginning about kind of brand, culture, values, everyone being on the same sheet, but it's so important, isn't it? Because as you try and change that when you're 10 deep or 15 people and that kind of thing, it's a tough gig to move, isn't it? A tough gig to get people to buy into. So getting that,
yeah, definitely. I think that if you look at the things that we've done well and the things we haven't done well, every decision we've made that we've thought about the future as well as the here and now, we've done well. Every decision we've made that's just been solely kind of a short-termist decision is ended up being a bit of a, can I swear on this podcast?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
It has been a bit of a fuck up. When we looked at things just short-termist, they never go well. You have to think about the medium and the long term. And I think more often than not, we've done that. And that's why we were able to kind of, up to this stage, the business has obviously gone well. It's been, I'd say, a success. There's lots of things we could have done better, 100%. But I think by having that focus on looking at the longer term as well as the here and now, I think that's always helped us.
It's interesting actually when you talk about long term because everyone talks about it, but they don't really live by it. So I speak to a lot of guys, especially obviously when we help people scale their businesses, because we've always talked about that with you, about the big picture. Whereas some guys say, this is what I want it to look like, and I want to exit, and I want to do this, and then what they do in day one isn't reflective of what they want long term.
Yeah,
so it's so important to actually not just have it in mind. Cool, I want to exit in 8 years, or I want to exit in 10 years. Actually, live it now because you can't change it once it's harder to change once you're in full motion.
Yeah, definitely, and you have to have that focus. And unfortunately, the world that we live in, everything is a lot more short-termist now. The patience that's required to build something over a sustained period and build that consistency. I think culturally, society likes things done very, very quickly, kind of that instant gratification. And I don't personally believe that that's good for business. It's not good for a lot of things, really, relationships and whatever they may be, but business as well.
It doesn't
last. Absolutely, easy come, easy go. So I think you have to have that kind of eye on the longer term. Sometimes you have to just get on and do something for the here and now, of course. But the more you do that has a view of the longer term, and I'm not talking about 10, 15 years, but kind of, okay, if we do something now, what's it going to look like in 3 and 4 and 5 years' time? How's it going to impact the business then?
Yeah.
And I think whenever we've done that, it's been a good thing for the business.
Good. So let's talk about the business a little bit, because obviously the one question that will come up that people ask me about, and you've been acquired, haven't you? You've made a sale, haven't exited the business or anything yet. But so, what does the business have to kind of, or what do businesses have to look like? Do you think to be interesting? Because we hear it all the time. People's long-term goal is to exit, or the long-term goal is to buy, to be sold. Sorry, but most people don't know where to start. I mean, what would you say? Kind of any tips that would help people in regards to what business has to look like to be a decent proposition to someone wanting to buy it?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think the first thing to say is that we never set out to build a business to sell it. That was never the objective. The objective was to kind of give ourselves more flexibility, of course, earn more money, to know that we'd given it a go.
Yeah.
in terms of being business people in our own right. So that's kind of the fundamentals. It was never we're going to build this business and sell it to an AIM listed PLC in X amount of years, etc. That was never ever on the cards.
Out of
It,
interest, do
as
you think that's a? Because I hear it more and more about exits.
yeah,
Do you think it is like a generational thing, just because people have got more information now and they see guys on YouTube or they get an exit is the thing? You know what I mean? Like I don't think previously people built businesses just to sell, but now
yeah,
everyone's like, yeah, because I'm going to exit for 5 years, and we're like, well, you'll be 23. Do you know what I mean? Do you think it's a
yeah.
generational thing, or or it's
I
just
don't know if it's I don't know if it's a generational thing. I do think people underestimate what is required to build a business that is acquirable, and to then do a deal with a potential acquirer and then go through the process to sell it. It's not easy. It's very very difficult. Going back to the point about Nimish and I, we were able to do it. I feel because there's two of us. We're able to split our time to make sure the business carried on going, and one of us focused on kind of working with the acquirer, etc.
yeah,
It's not an easy thing to do. I guess going back to the question around what makes a business a good proposition, the consistency, the
yeah,
brand, multiple income streams, and also not just good founders that are the face of the business, but your supporting cast has to have that quality as well. And if you look at the guys that work beneath Nimish and I, if you want to call it that, these guys are just quality people that have been with us for a long time, that understand the business. And if we got hit by a bus tomorrow, the business can continue. And that, I think that for any acquirer is very, very important, because you don't want to have too much risk with one or two people. You need that continuity. Now, of course, we're in with Begbies for a minimum of 5 years, so there's that consistency anyway. So it hasn't really changed at all,
yeah,
and that suits us because we never plan to go anywhere
yeah.
for a while anyway. Our work isn't done yet. We've still got a lot more that we want to achieve. But yeah, I mean, the standard stuff, consistency of growth. We worked through the COVID, the pandemic, still profitably. We generate good cash. We've got good guys. All of that is just a general thing that you'd
When you're
expect
being
in
bought,
any.
do they literally delve into all of that? Do they look at your kind of your management and that kind of thing? Because I know you've got a great team. You know, I'm blowing smoke out your ass. You know that you've got a good team, you've got good leaders, and that kind of thing. So I think that's important as well, because not many mortgage companies get to the point where they can go without the founders. Do you know what I mean? I think it gets to a point where
Yeah,
we don't think as forward thinking as other industries where founder can't be the be all and end all if it's your genuine reasons that you want to sell.
yeah, I think so. I think obviously we're slightly different to the standard mortgage brokerage, because our mortgage brokerage is just one part of the group.
Yeah,
So the commercial finance, the advisory brokerage is still the biggest part of the group. The insurance brokerage and the mortgage brokerage are now kind of similar sizes, and the insurance brokerage is growing at quite a rate.
how
So
important has that
it's
been actually, Nick? While we're on it, how important has that been that you've got like revenue streams and people thinking about that? Obviously, people have pivoted a little bit with the market the way it is, but you never really had to pivot, did you? Because you'd already done it. Like that was always the vision of Mantra. You
yeah,
have the income streams, separately.
that was part of the vision from day one.
Yeah,
That building a business that had, we don't like the term one stop shop. We think it's corny bullshit, but
it is a one
there
stop shop.
there is some truth to it,
Yeah,
right? So we always had that, and for us, it's all about customer experience. And if you're an entrepreneur that has multiple different requirements, then why not have all of those served by one place? Now, the thing that is really really important, going back to my earlier point, is the consistency and the level of quality that a client will experience.
yeah.
So what we didn't want to do is set up complementary parts of the business that were just 5 out of 10s when we felt our commercial finance business was a 10 out of 10. And so we needed to build teams and build complementary businesses that were just as good. So, and that took a little bit of time. That was hard. We needed to find the right people. We've made mistakes along the way in hiring. That's kind of, but
Not through
it's
me.
just part. Not through you. Otherwise, I wouldn't have jumped on this, would I? Not through you. But being honest, that that if we had more people like you around us, without blowing smoke up your ass earlier on, we might not make so many mistakes. So,
How do you think those mistakes come about then? Is it like knee-jerk type decisions, or is it just you live and learn? You're like, it's hard to put your finger on it.
people don't appreciate it. When Nimish and I set this business up, we were 28 and 30. We were kids.
Yeah.
And we grew together, we learned together, we made mistakes together. And one of the things that we had never done when we were in banking, I mean, I've been in banking 10 or 11 years, I think 28, 29, I think actually, when we set the business up. We hadn't really done too much hiring. We had people that we were responsible for. We had small teams that we'd managed, but we'd never hired anyone. I remember hiring someone for my dad in the CAF. That was it. I'd never hired anyone in my life. Yeah, so I'd never hired anyone in my life. So we just didn't know what we were doing. And you realize very quickly the things that you're good at, the things you're not good at.
Yeah.
And that was, we were fortunate that a big cohort of who we brought on, we knew.
Right.
And where we started to make the mistakes is once we had exhausted that. So if you look at some of the guys like Rick, Tony, Satch, Taz, these guys we knew. My sister obviously works in our mortgages team, so I've known her a while.
Yeah.
Once we'd exhausted that cohort of people that we knew them well, we knew how good they were. Once we'd exhausted that, it was difficult. We then started to make some mistakes, and that's not saying anything bad about anyone that's worked for us.
Because you know what, we speak to businesses all the time, and even ones that are setting up and they have got a few of their pals or the few of the people they know, but I always say, I'm really honest and go, look, we don't need us for now. Like, get those people in initially who you know, trust, know they can do the job, trust with the brand and that kind of thing. We really step in when you get to that saturation point of going, right, anyone else we're bringing on up that we know is not adding any value, it's not increasing the mean average of the team. That's when it gets tricky, doesn't it? But
yeah,
if you've got that background, or you know those people already, then obviously it's going to be advantageous to you, isn't it?
Yeah, it helped us. I mean, our first hire was Sachin that Nimish and I offered a job to when we were drunk at our leaving do at Metro. And it's a true story.
In the morning, did he remember?
It's a true story. I remember when Nim's told me, we've got a member of staff. And imagine that we're a new business just about to start, and all of a sudden we've got a member of staff. Like, fucking hell, really? But it was, but Sachin has just turned out to be
great.
Absolute godsend. I mean, he's just still with us, obviously now, and I was going to say don't say this out loud, but unfortunately, I'm on a podcast. So what would we do without Satch? You know what I mean? He knows the business inside and out. He's built it with us. So,
I suppose that's the other thing as well.
As have a lot of the others as well. Do you know what I mean?
If they've been there from the beginning, like they've got to, and again, we kind of preach this to people, but people have got to appreciate the journey, right? They can't just, you're not Knight Frank yet. If you want to do that, go and do it. But if you want to join a small business and grow with it, it's exciting, isn't it? Everyone can be part of it. It's how do you keep everyone I'm not in line with the vision, I suppose. How do you keep everyone involved in the vision still? Did everyone always know where it was going? Have you always been quite open?
In terms of the business itself, we're quite big on communication and we're quite open. So we have regular updates on kind of numbers, the deals that are being done, objectives versus last year, actuals and forecasts and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So it's quite clear for the guys to kind of map how the business is doing and see what their role within that is. And we've always been like that. We don't like all this kind of too many secrets, etc. Kind of the guys can see how the business is doing, and I think that's important. So what was the next part of your question? Sorry.
Great question.
How do you keep them engaged?
Yeah, how do you keep them not in line with the vision, but how did you? Yeah, exactly. Keep them kind of engaged and knowing what you're doing. I suppose it's like you just said.
I think you asked also about if they were kind of knew about our objectives.
As soon as I ask something, it goes out of my head because I'm sat listening to you.
So in terms of the sale of the business, no. And obviously being acquired by a PLC is
not allowed to, right?
You can't say absolutely, and that was quite a big thing. And Nimish and I discussed about selling the business only a couple of weeks before discussion started with our kind of.
So it happened really quick, yeah.
It happened quite quickly. We'd actually started talking about it a couple of weeks prior. So, okay, maybe it's time to start preparing the business. what would a business need to look like ours. Not many people have done it.
Hmm.
Let's start preparing. And then all of a sudden conversations popped out of nowhere, and kind of away we went. So we'd never really set that out
Was that just
to
like
the first.
would that feel like a whirlwind? I mean, it was a few obviously months or years when before it went through.
No,
Was it
we never really. For us, it was just another workflow.
right?
Yeah, like it was a deal. Um, I would read the contents of the share purchase agreement as many times as I would read the contents of a facility letter for one of our clients. For
Right.
me, we just treated it like that. It was another workflow, another job to be done. We never really got too gassed up by it. We just kept our focus. It was hard work because to carry on the business and run the business and not let a business be
Yeah.
impacted when you're going through an exercise like that means you have to put even more hours in. So a lot of the stuff I was doing for the sale was in the evening.
Yeah.
I mean,
Is that tricky as well, right? Because if you've always been really open and everyone knows where it's going, is it an awkward time for you, or is it just like you say, is it just another bit of business? You just have to sort of keep on with both sides of it.
yeah. Well, in terms of people seeing
Yeah,
that
like
what
people
you,
can't see it, can they? So you've got to be, so it's not cloaking down at all, is it? So
yeah,
you've got
yeah,
to be very,
it was hard, yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. But
because you're a close
like
team, aren't you?
yeah, we are a close team. But I'll go back to the previous point that there's two of us,
Yeah,
and I think for anybody looking to partnerships don't always work. Ours has and does, and we were fortunate that we were able to kind of split, and we never done this very well at the beginning. We'd go to meetings together with every single thing would
yeah,
be
yeah,
together, and then we realised after a period of time, hold on, yeah, maybe we shouldn't be holding each other's hand all the time, and we started to kind of separate our responsibilities and be accountable to one another. That's your job, get it done. That's my job, I'll get it done, and we've kind of kept to that, and
I think that's really
it's held
important
us
as
in good
well.
stead.
That's really
Yeah,
important for people because, like, as business owners, we don't write job specs for ourselves, right? Everyone in
yeah,
the business knows what they do. Everyone's got a job spec, but actually, you get leaders in the business and they haven't got a job spec. So, and like you said, you picked up on it then about accountability. Like, it's if you don't know exactly what both your job roles are in the business, then it's a bit like,
yeah.
why isn't that done? Whose part is that? So, do you do that, or have you done it, and do you do it regularly when you sit down and go, right, what are we doing? What's my role in this? What's your role in it? And
It's got to a point now that it's almost telepathic.
yeah,
If something needs to be done, we just know whose responsibility it will have to be. Um, and if something might come across my desk, and I'll say to people, "Yeah, okay, that's not for me. Well,
yeah,
Nimesh will have to run this." Most of the time, that's technology or branding or
yeah.
marketing.
Social
So,
media.
yeah, social
Funny thing
media.
on the
Yeah,
bloody
I'm,
marketing.
I'm, I'm definitely not your guy. I mean, you should have seen. He nearly fell off his chair when I told him I was doing this. You should have.
I've only been asking you for 2 years, mate. It's nice that you took that long to do it. I saw when you first sent that email back saying I'll do it. I was like, right, let's pin him down now because he's either drunk or he's in a really good mood.
Yeah, he might change his mind. Yeah, I did consider it, but you're quite useful to us. So I didn't want to upset you.
I appreciate that. Let's talk about that actually. So let's talk about your NIMS and also your management structure. So people will go into business with their mates, which I mean, I know you were friends before, but you've both got different skill sets as well, don't you? You both complement the business in different ways. How important is that when you're growing it, that you're not just two brokers bashing out deals? Do people have to really consider that when they're going into business with someone?
Yeah, I think what you don't want to do is go into business with someone that is another copy of you.
Right.
And I can't say that there's something that Nimish and I considered when we set this up. Some of it kind of happened, and you're right. We were mates when we set the business up, but we were work friends.
Yeah.
We've become best mates, and I think that worked out quite well for us because it enabled our relationship to grow as business partners, and kind of that's happened over 8 years.
Yeah.
But I think it's different to going into business with your best friend. I've seen that on kind of advisor side, being a bank manager for many years. I've seen a lot of people fall out. They might be siblings, they might be best of friends because emotionally they got high expectations of one another. And if
Yeah. Yeah.
someone falls short of that, all of a sudden it impacts the business. So, and I'm not to say that anyone that goes into business with their best mate
No,
or their
no, but I know
brother or
what you
their
mean. Yeah,
sibling
you've got to go for the
fail.
right reasons, right? It can't
But
be.
from experience, sometimes that's not a good thing.
Yeah.
in terms of our responsibilities and kind of what we do, it's linked to skill set.
Yeah.
What are you good at? What are you not so good at? Or who is the least shit at that job?
I was going to say, is there a little bit of like, do you have to sort of, when you're doing roles and responsibilities, do you have to leave your ego at the door a little bit? Because, or you
Yeah,
kind of, you're already self-aware. I mean, I
can't.
know you do have that because when we speak.
Yeah, you can't have ego. You can't. If in any partnership to work, for example, I'm perfectly comfortable, beg your pardon, with if you ask 100 people who is the MD or owner, forget the sale, but the owner of Mantra, for 99 of them to say Nimesh.
Hmm.
So I've always been perfectly comfortable with that because it suits me and my personality. And Nimesh knows that he will have to push that side of the business a bit
Yeah,
more
yeah.
because
And
it's
Nimesh is
more
a brand guy,
his skill
right?
set
But
than it is mine, right? He's more comfortable doing it than I am, standing on stage and speaking to people. Never been my thing. There's other things that I'm good at. It's very good cop, bad cop. We've always
yeah,
been like that, um,
but it's good that you
and
have to
that's
be
fine.
comfortable with it as well because there
Yeah,
is an
you have
ego
to.
thing to owning a business. So it's good you understand
Yeah,
that your business isn't your baby. It's your functioning machine that's getting you to where you need to be. So you don't have to have that big ego about, like you say, who knows who or what's message.
and you have to appreciate that if something needs to be done, and even though you might not want to do it, you realize that the two of you, you're probably the better place to get it done. You have to take it on the chin. That's your responsibility.
Yeah,
You don't really want to be in a position where your business partner is saying, "No, you got to do that." It's very rare that that's ever happened with Nims and I. You need to get
you've
there
always got to
first.
have
You
that
need to you
understanding of
need to recognize it.
like you said then.
Recognize that that's your job first, and get it done, because you owe it to one another, and you owe it to the people that work in your business, etc. So, yeah, we've always been like that, and it's developed really well over the last 8 years.
And does that help with accountability as well? The fact you've got each other to go, that's not up to par, or this is something we've got to deal with. Is it? Have you've always been easy with each other to stay accountable?
Yeah, I think so. We have been, and we've got high expectations of ourselves.
Yeah,
So and we never really get too overexcited by the wins. We've never done that. We've never been ones to, oh, look how great we are, and kind of, outward facing. You have to do this kind of thing in this kind
yeah,
of
yeah,
world, right? Yeah. It's like any other business. I know we've done this deal, we've done that. Yeah, it's just unfortunately that's the world that we're in, and
that's it. Yeah,
that
it's the way to be.
has to be done. Yeah, absolutely. But internally, we've never got too excited by that kind of thing. And I go
And do you
back
think that
actually.
helps? Sorry, do you think that helps with when there's negative things happen because you don't over celebrate the wins? If something detrimental happens to the business and it doesn't get you down too much, do you think being on that level head helps with the bad times as well as the good?
Yeah, probably. I think we will be able to list out things we've done wrong easier than the things that we've done right.
Right.
That's our character as well,
Yeah, yeah.
because we've got
That's a
high
good trait to have.
expectations.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
great. What's the point of
yeah.
celebrating your
We'll
wins?
always focus
What are
on
you going wrong?
we'll always focus on the fuck ups.
Yeah,
The good stuff. That's what we're expected to do. And what we've had to do and teach ourselves is not and try not to be like that with our people, because it's okay for us to be like that with each other,
yeah.
but I don't think it's right to be like that with our people. And in the past we were, and that was a mistake, and we grew out of that.
What is it? Not letting them
Sometimes
celebrate their wins or not getting overexcited about
some
their
of our
wins?
guys might some of our guys might watch this and say, "Hold on a minute, boss, you sure?" But I feel like we've got better at it.
Subjective. You take it what you want of
Yeah,
that.
it is subjective. I like to think we have got better at it.
When you say that, do you mean kind of not overly celebrating their wins and that kind of thing? Was that where you've changed? You think
Yeah,
wrong?
that's something that we've never been good at,
Yeah,
and I think that being honest, that probably starts from me. My biggest failing, that I've never kind of been euphoric about a
yeah, yeah.
certain
You're level-headed,
success.
aren't you? About everything, It's,
Yeah, I just think that you have to be, and I would always be a lot more comfortable if you say something unkind about me than something
yeah,
nice
yeah.
about me. I've always been more comfortable like that. I'm an odd guy. I don't know, and people that know me will probably be nodding and say, "Yeah, that's true."
It's
Just
easier,
never,
isn't it? It's just,
yeah,
yeah.
never.
I know, I do get that.
Yeah, as you get it. So
Someone tells you how great they are. You try and not take the piss back. It's difficult.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So obviously you've got you and Nims at the helm, but talk to me. So leaders wise, you've got some really good managers, and obviously that's helped you not just grow the business, but also get to where you are selling wise. What do you look for in a good leader? What do you think? Do you think they stick out from early on, or is it something you've nurtured? Do you nurture particular people, or how has that come about?
Yeah, I think if you look at the guys that you would say are the leaders within our business, they've all grown as leaders, with the exception of Roger, who's got far more experience than Nimish and I.
Yeah,
Roger runs the trading desk within the commercial business. But if you look at guys like Tony and Rikesh, who are the directors in the commercial business and the real estate team, Sachin kind of who will assist them, who's been with us since day one. Um, uh, well, John, who's obviously some people may know, he's leaving us on to Pastors New, and we wish him well. These guys have all, Himesh, that joined us to run the insurance business. These guys have all grown their capability as managers and leaders within this business alongside us. So I can't
would you
really
nurture
answer the
them with your
question about.
skills? Do you
Yeah,
nurture
I
them skills?
think
Or
we.
they're natural leaders.
I think we've listen. Everyone's got different skill sets, as we all have.
Yeah,
I like to think that we've got this saying here. A lot of people will hear me say it: "Do something today you didn't know how to do yesterday," and that's always been. I know it sounds corny as fuck, but it's our mantra
no,
that we by doing that you will grow. If you do the same thing day in day out, yes, you'll become an expert, but you'll pigeonhole yourself. So you never know what your limit is unless you push the boundaries. I never would have when we set the business up thought that we would have done what we've done, but year in year out you push yourself a little bit more and you kind of get there. So we've always had that, and we've always tried to instill that in our people and each other as well. Because don't forget, we've grown
yeah, I was going
ourselves
to
as
say
we've
it's
been
hard, isn't it?
doing.
'Cause you've done
We're
it.
not.
You've grown at the same time as the business, as sometimes everyone else is growing. There's lots of moving parts, isn't there, to that to scaling of.
Yeah, listen, we're by no means a finished article. I mean, for God's sake, we've got a lot of things that we're not good at, a lot of things we need to improve on. But we've grown ourselves and built ourselves up and kind of brought people along on the journey with us, and they've helped us do what we've done at the same time. We wouldn't have been able, for example, I wouldn't have been able to do what I do now. I spend a lot of my time interfacing with my colleagues in the PLC. I would have run the majority of the sale. Had I not had Tony alongside me, a lot of people know Tony at Underneal, I wouldn't have been able to do that. Tony worked alongside me when I was at Metro, then came over with us. If Tony wasn't around, I wouldn't have been able to do it. Same with Nims and Rikesh.
Yeah,
So, and you kind of build those people alongside you as you're building yourself. And you build that. So whilst Nimish and I have got this telepathy and we've kind of got this understanding, we've got that with our senior cohort as well. And I think that's been a massive, massive part of the business.
yeah, that makes sense. And obviously they've built, or you haven't built them, but they've built themselves up with you, so you know what's needed from that leadership position. Yeah, so they've seen you do it. They've worked their way up. They weren't leaders before they came into the business, so they're mantra
Yeah.
leaders as opposed to just generic.
Yeah, I'd say so. And I say to everybody that comes in, look around you, there's a hell of a lot of experience in the room, and take the good bits and try to kind of don't take the bad bits. And that will include Nimish and I as well. Take some of the stuff that you think is good that we do, park some of the stuff you think is not so good, and
That's
mold
all of us,
yourself.
though, right? And we've just taken the good bits out of everyone. Like everything we, yeah, I always say that, even about everything we say, it's just plagiarised by 100 conversations I've had, taking the good bits out and then
Yeah.
treating it as my own. There's no difference.
You know what? You said something to me at lunch the other day, and I used it the next day. When we're off air, I'll tell you what it is.
Oh, I can't believe it. I'll tell you where I nicked it from if
I
you tell me.
used, I used it. I used it the very next day.
Oh, I'm overjoyed. Because I didn't think you
Yeah.
were listening. But you just,
But it depends what it is. So you need to wait and hear what it is.
well, if you can cut through all that 2 hours of bullshit that I speak and get one good bit out of it, then it's worth
Yeah,
it.
it was. Yeah, it was worth it. Yeah, it was worth it.
So
Putting up with the rest of the shit.
let's move on to social media, right? Because there are going to be people that it resonates with, that you, safe to say, like you're relatively old school when it comes to like embracing the social media or initial embracing the social media, but you knew it was important for the business. But because there's loads of guys like
Yeah.
that, right? We're all a similar age where we know we have to do it. We don't really know why, but how important has it been for you for you guys and the business to kind of embrace social media and actually and, and have a strategy behind it as opposed to just kind of knowing you need to do it? How's that been for you?
Listen, it's important, right? It's important for brand awareness. It's important for consistency, for people to see what you do, for people to be aware of what you do. It's important for younger people coming into your business, because we've had younger people come to the business that they will. The first thing they'll do if they're looking to apply for a job, they'll go on your Instagram page to kind of understand that kind of thing, completely alien to people like you and I. And we realise that. So it's very, very important. My personal opinion on social media, and I've had this. If anyone has had a conversation with me for a long time, will be won't be surprised to hear some of the concerns I have around it. But it's not so much social media; it's that unfortunately it's society that uses it, and kind of the way in which we
Social
use
media
it.
is fine. It's the people.
Yeah, social media is fine. It's just the people that use it and the way they use it that I'm not so keen on.
We've had this
But
conversation, right, about it, how it has to connect to your business, right? And
yeah,
and I think that's one of the things that you aren't overly impressed with. That there's sometimes a disconnect between social media and how and what we're selling, basically. You know, what we're adding value about.
yeah, absolutely. I've never been a fan of people taking a picture of themselves and find because they think they look good in it and finding some loose link to business that they can plug. It just infuriates me. I don't understand why you would do that and devalue yourself and your brand. But I am an old fart with stuff like that, and I have. Listen, I'm lucky that I've got a business partner that's good at it. It's not to say that Nimesh loves it. He recognised a lot earlier than I did,
Yeah,
and had the skill set to kind of embrace it and do good with it. That's driven our business, and I kind of I was able to not kind of take the lead with that kind
yeah,
of thing, right? But by the same token, I recognise that it can be fantastic for your business to be able to reach thousands of people with your message instantly. I mean, Nimesh has given the example plenty of times. You can fill Wembley Stadium and speak to everybody in that stadium by doing some social media.
yeah.
When you obviously you're not going to go sell tickets to to,
Well,
to,
listen to
to
what I've got to
listen
say.
to me speak for 5 minutes, are you? So it's very, very powerful. It's really, really important. If used in the right way, I embrace it definitely. I just think that the same caution that I had around social media when it first came about, I still have now, in that I feel like it's for society as a whole, and I've got young kids, I'm very, very concerned about it. I'm
Yeah,
very concerned about what it does. I'm concerned about the instant gratification, the ability to nurture relationships and things. I think social media doesn't help
yeah. Got
personally.
a place, right?
I
It's got
think
a place. It's not
yeah,
exchanging
it's got
arms
a
and
place,
shaking hands and
and it's not like I said, it's not social media. Unfortunately, it's the people that use it, and I think that it can send you down kind of extremes and rabbit holes that you and I might have a disagreement about something, a relatively moderate views and a moderate disagreement, and over a period of time, all of a sudden, we're at each other's throats
yeah,
because all of a sudden our opinions are a lot more extreme than what they started off as. So all of these things around social media, I've always had concerns with, and I still have. But in terms from a business context, I see the merit, and I think it's a very, very good thing, a very powerful tool, and if used in the right way, and we've seen it, and we've got someone in house that does all of our content, etc. I'm sure lots of businesses do,
yeah.
and I like to think that more often than not, we get it right. We find the blend.
I think like it's the same
And
as your values
it
in your
works.
business. Your social media is consistent with everything you've discussed. You know, I think
Yeah,
that's the difference.
yeah.
Yeah, I
I
do.
think,
I do think if people can take anything from what you just said, is that consistency side of things. That it's got to look like you. It's got to look like your brand. Like it's got to be relevant. I think there's too many people that post for post's sake. 'Cause we know we're supposed to post, but actually without any strategy or what your objection is or who you're trying to get to. It's literally posting for post's sake. It seems like a strange say
yeah.
strategy, but it's not strategy. Good. So, in regards to scaling the business, I know you said you made lots of mistakes. I don't know how much you want to delve into that, but if you could give any kind of advice as to maybe what not to do or to think about seriously when someone's trying to scale the business, what kind of advice can you give someone who's maybe early on in their journey that you think would be relevant?
don't be scared to make the mistake. I think that's the first thing, because if you're scared to make a mistake, you'll never do anything. And I think that's the first thing to do. Back yourself. When what we found is that every day we would come across a scenario that we'd never seen before.
Yeah.
So we had to back ourselves and back our fundamentals to be able to navigate through those scenarios. They weren't all deal related, because in terms of being debt advisors and deal doers, we were actually very experienced. We've done a lot of deals, big deals, small deals. That wasn't so difficult. It's all the rest of it that was a little bit of a challenge. So yeah, I'd say don't be scared to make a mistake. Don't make the same mistake twice. And again,
like
we've done that as well.
Yeah. Well, I like the fact, like you said, then back yourself, because there's loads of people that are umming and ahhing about whether to do it, but and there are businesses that fail, right? There's not everyone's a success story like you. You know, it does happen, but I just think that if you don't take the risk,
that's an interesting one, right? How do you define success? People say you guys are a success, but one won't know kind of other sacrifices, other issues that, and this isn't kind of a therapy session to say I've had all this other hardship. No, I'm just speaking generally. That what is success? I think if going back to your first question around it, don't chase the pound note. I think people that chase a certain amount of money, that is a cancer. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Do the right behaviors. If you do the right thing, time in, time out, time in, time out, someone will pay you. You will make money. If that is your driver, you will make money. But don't let that be the definition of your success. I would never have, and we won't, because I just don't think that is good for your business.
it's really good. That's really poignant. And actually, you said this right at the beginning, and I sort of half picked up on it, because I said revenue streams, and I was talking about your business, about having the different sides of things, and you said we just looked at how it's the customer journey and the customer experience. I think that's the difference. Rather than looking at it as a revenue stream, it's how your customer sees it, I think, and that produces the revenue, doesn't it? So I worded it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Revenue, but that's really
yeah, no, that is absolutely it. Because if you do the right thing, this was our view anyway. Not to say that we know everything, but our opinion was that if you did the right thing, then you will have a successful business.
Yeah.
And you will therefore make money. I think that is, but we did it that way around. It wasn't we want to make money, so we're going to do the right thing.
Yeah. Also,
it's the other way.
Like you said, it's a byproduct, right?
It's a byproduct. Absolutely,
money isn't the thing you can go for, because it's not a.
Yeah.
It's your robbing banks. Yeah. It's not a tangible thing you can actually aim at.
Yeah.
But good, excellent. Thank you very much, mate. I appreciate that. I think that's a really good way to end it. That's some really good advice. I hope some people got some interest and stuff like that. I appreciate it. It kept you a lot longer than I said I would.
Yeah.
But thank you, everyone watching on YouTube and listening on Spotify. If you want to get hold of Nick or ask any questions, how can they get hold of actually, Nick? If people want to bother you and ask any questions, what's the best way to get hold of you?
They can contact us on They can contact us on Instagram, but I won't be reading it. Someone else will. But anyone wants to contact me on LinkedIn, please do. Nimesh keeps on telling me I need to have a bigger profile on there, which I'm going to work on.
Nim's got a big enough profile for everyone. It's fine. There you go. Yeah. So, as I said, all of Mantra's socials will be on this if anyone wants to get in contact. But in the meantime, Nick, I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much for coming on today.
Thank you, mate. Thank you. Mate. All the best.